Hi, my name is Daniel. This is my co-host Omar. Welcome to our show where we explore the fight and fighters. We're not talking about what just happens in the cage or in a ring, but the psychological, the emotional, and the spiritual fights that we encounter in our lives.
We interview fighters with the hope to be inspired by their journey and motivate us to double down on our commitment to better our lives. If you have a fight in you or just love a good story, then welcome to the show. Today we have Cupcake joining us, 3-time Golden Glove winner and a current street beef fighter and community member. Welcome, Cupcake. Thank you for making time to be here, sir. How you feeling today?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Cupcake, right? And so I know the story. I know the backstory because we both know the backstory because we were followers of Streetbeefs. And so can you give us a little bit more history behind the name that generated so much buzz?
I'm horrible with names. Absolutely horrible with names. So whenever I was coaching boxing, I called everybody Cupcake. And like in my gym, if I said Cupcake, 10 people would turn around. That was just my thing. And then so whenever he made that video calling me out and he called me Cupcake, I thought one of my boxers told him to call me that. Like I thought he had somebody talked to him or something. And so whenever he said that, I just made that my name because I'm over 12. I don't have a nickname, so I just had to make one up real quick.
You're talking about Scarface from Streetbeefs, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, he called me Cupcake in the first intro video whenever we were going back and forth, and so I just made it my name.
So what was the back and forth over?
Man, to be completely honest with you, I was sitting on the couch at about 284, and I wanted to take a street beef fight. But if I was going to fly across the country, I wanted to make sure I had a fight. Because I have, in amateur boxing, it's very, very common to show up to a venue and not have a fight, especially at a super heavyweight. Like whenever younger kids, there's more fighters, so that doesn't happen as much. So I wanted to make sure I had a fight. So actually, I guess they call it trolling. I don't know. I was calling him out in the comment section. I think my first comment was, I want to fight Scarface and Bang Time on the same night. And I think he said, oh, we got a tough guy here or something like that. And I said, no, I just want the easy fights. I want to fight you. And we went back and forth. And then the second that he said that he accepted the fight or I accepted the fight, and I basically told him that I just wanted to get the message out about, it's out, but I just wanted, it seemed like with this pandemic, everybody's talking about corona, about breast cancer. Because, even if they survive from breast cancer, I think if you look at out of top 10, 6 of the bankruptcies in America is from cancer related. If you survive, you're crippled. It's even if you have insurance. It's just a brutal disease, and so many people are going through it. And it's not just them; it's their family. To see a loved one go through that, you feel helpless. Like there's I knew nothing about breast cancer. Whenever she got diagnosed, and then all of a sudden you get on Google, and then that seemed like the worst. A lot of people were saying like I wouldn't show up and I would get knocked out in the first round, and they were trying to bet me money, which I knew I was going to show up, and I knew I have a great chin. I've been in my whole boxing career in MMA, I've been hit the canvas one time and I was up at 2. So I knew it was 100% I was going to win those bets. So I was making every bet I could, but I was saying since it's 100%, just whenever I win the bet, just donate it to breast cancer awareness. And he asked me why I was saying that. And then he told me his mom passed away and went through the same surgeries that my girlfriend did. But whenever she went through the double mastectomy, she was at stage 4, I believe is what he told me. And it bought her a year. That's when I actually had that shirt made and actually designed it myself. For him. And I think the back of it said, Diana, I think was the name. She lost her fight, but she's still in my corner. Mm-hmm. And the front of it said the real fight and had a breast cancer patch, and I just wanted to bring some light to it. And man, it was well worth it. I've had so many positive messages and stories from Canada, Australia, talking about making me feel like very, very lucky. Like one gentleman from Canada, I think, lost his wife at 24 years old.
Wow.
And just talking to him, I was like, man, you're a better man than me. I wouldn't be having this conversation right now. And he was like, I was too much of a pussy to kill myself. And so I guess he turned to heroin because he just wanted to escape. And then I guess he ended up getting caught with it. And then when he went to jail, he said it was like a second wind at life and he wanted to live again. And so it just made me feel extremely, extremely lucky. You don't see like the grass is always greener. You're always like, oh, why me? Why me? But then somebody out there has it worse than you, and somebody is dealing with more than you, I promise.
Thank you for sharing that, Cupcake. That's something very close to you and something that has impacted so many lives, right? It continues to, right? Certainly want to dig a little bit more into that topic, but let's take a step back a little bit and get to know who you are a little bit more. So we know you, Cupcake. We know that you're a part of the Streetbeefs family. We know that you are a 3-time Gold Glove winner in your state, right, in your region. How old are you, and what do you currently do for a living? You can share a little bit about that.
All right. Well, I recently just got hired on at Firestone because of this pandemic. I am about to be 40 years old. Yeah, I'm dreading the old 40, to be completely honest with you. And that's one reason I wanted to take the fight is at certain stages, like when you think you're too old or whatnot, or you're losing a step, there's only one way to find out is getting in the ring.
I mean, let me just stop you right. I mean, that is incredible, right? Like that's inspiring. You're already inspiring me because you can ask my wife that, like my partner, like I'm walking around the house all day shadowboxing, thinking that I can get in the fight, but really, I don't think I'm as brave as you. And I'm 36, and I'm already feeling it all through my body. So to hear that you at 40 are taking on these challenges and challenging yourself, right, to test where you're at, man, that's inspiring, man. That's really, really inspiring.
I think Scarface is a year older than me too, so that lets you know his mentality. I kind of got the itch again. I might want to do another MMA or a jiu-jitsu tournament or whatnot. It sounds silly, but I don't get nervous for boxing. I mean, I don't like it doesn't make my heart pitter patter like it used to. I guess because you've done it for so long, or like once you've been in MMA, it kind of takes away from the excitement of boxing.
Let's take another step back. So what originally got you into combat sports? What was the sort of the motivation or the reason why you decided to train in boxing? And then I'm hearing that you also have some some jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu background as well. So curious if you could share a little bit about like what initially got you into that gym and sort of exploring this art.
Okay, I'm from a small town in Arkansas, Russellville, Russ Vegas, as I like to say. And man, in like 96, 97, all there was like karate dojos and stuff like that. And ever since I was like 13 years old, I'd loved the UFC. Like I don't know how many times I rented the cassette tapes, so you know how old I am. I thought it was amazing. The first one where they had this little bitty Dutch guy go up against this sumo wrestler and he kicked his tooth through the second row. I mean, I was hooked. And so I always wanted to get into something like that. And the Russellville Police Department, shout out to John Surratt, it was basically just one cop. He did a nonprofit, like did not charge any of his students, and it was just a youth program to keep kids out of trouble. And I started there at 16, and I stayed with him until the gym closed. I think got 2 foster kids, and it took up too much of his time. He started it back up, I want to say, like 12 years or 10 years later, and I showed up at like 26 years old to help him out, and he still let me train there. And then after he stepped away again, he let me run the gym. And I think I did that for like 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. It sounds silly. There's so much politics in amateur boxing. It's actually sad because after I started running the gym, I kind of got burnt out really bad on it. I mean, I was doing it for the kids, but there's so many red tapes and politics. I mean, we had the president of the amateur boxing in Little Rock, and I don't think he liked me very much. Shout out to Ray Rogers. I guess because I was a cocky kid when I was younger, mostly like being a young man trying to become a man, like doing what I thought. Like you see all the boxers on TV being cocky, and I was just trying to do what I thought I was supposed to do, if that makes sense.
You're mentioning like a young man trying to become a man, and so oftentimes we look at male role models to give us an idea of what that might be. And so who were some of those male role models in your life that formed that idea of, hey, I got to be tough or I got to be cocky because that's what a man is supposed to be?
Dude, my boxing coach, John Surratt, I know he touched a bunch of kids.
Like he touched them in spot.
Oh, yeah, inspirational. Not like that. No, not.
Right.
No, dude, he is a guy. I don't know how to say, a bulldog. He was head of the SWAT team. He was, I think, an Army Ranger. Like, I mean, he put a lot of toughness in me. Some of the quotes that he had on the wall, like I'll still remember. To deal with pain is to deal with life. I learned a lot from him, and my dad. My dad's always supported me. He's the only guy would come to my fights. My other family members wouldn't. They like to see me that way because I'm a completely different. I'm a nice, like, I think street fighting's stupid, but in a controlled environment, I think there's no way better to test yourself. A street fight happens, it'll be over in, seconds. You didn't have time to think about it. But when you know that you got to fight somebody in a month, 2 months, you go to bed thinking about that. I think every fighter does. Like when you're in the gym, it gives you motivation because you can, want to slack off, and then you think your opponent's not slacking off. And then the mental warfare of fighting, and I think the mind is so, so strong. If you take somebody with a lot of athletic ability and he's weak-minded, and you take somebody that's just strong-minded with not that much athletic ability, I think the guy with the strong mind is going to win.
So as you're talking, I'm like imagining you as this very balanced person. Like something tells me you're a very balanced in life. Like you strike me as the type of person that sort of likes to see all angles, right? And I'm hearing you talk about these men in your life that have taught you like mental toughness, physical toughness. Then I'm also hearing this other side of you about like being this really kind and caring individual, right? Like, how do you balance that? How do you balance the toughness that one needs to have in the ring, right, or in the cage, with being someone who can still have feelings and be like in touch with your vulnerability, right? I know that you're a father, you're a partner, right? Is that correct?
No, I have no kids.
Oh, okay.
I love kids. I'm actually really good with them, but I just.
Well, you have a bunch of students that are probably kind of like your kids and look up to you.
No lie, the best birth control you can have is having 20 screaming teenagers in a gym. I mean, it drove like that was 3 hours. Some days I just wanted to slam my head in the wall because, I mean, as a coach, when you're teaching kids the basics, you're saying the same thing over and over. I love coaching, but I liked it later on. Like I didn't like to go over like footwork and just like how to throw a basic jab, which is part of it. But like I like the kind of what my boxing coach showed me about like whenever things get tough, don't quit. Like you're mentally, you can do so much more than you think you can. Say if you're got to run 10 miles and then like you secretly only have to run 8, that running 8 miles is going to be easier if you mentally think you got to run 5 miles but then they make you run an extra 3 because mentally you already have quit at 5 miles, and you're like, oh, I'm just doing extra. It makes it tougher. The psychological part of the game, and I think I actually had one of my old boxers, because I used to tell him this. He put a bunch of money on Andy Louise, their first fight, because I told him, if you're fighting a guy that looks buff and looks like he can fight and he has 2 wins, I go, there's a good chance he beat the fighters before then. But if you see a fat guy that doesn't look like he can fight at all and he has 3 or 4 wins, respect that, because he didn't beat them mentally before the fight. He earned those wins. And so, like, I've seen fighters that, like, man, they look like they're a beast. And then they get in there and they tire out. And my friend Rocky Titsworth, if you saw him, I mean, God, when he was boxing, I think he was like 6 foot, 300 pounds. Just looked like a big old country boy. Fastest hands, I mean, and very, very intelligent. One of the smartest guys you'll ever meet. So, like, my first sparring partner, Antonio Handy, like, most intimidating guy I've ever seen in my life. Live, not like on TV. I think he was 6'8", like almost 300 pounds with a 6-pack. I mean, he was the nicest guy. If you saw him walking down the street, you'd go to the other side. I mean, he was that big. But if you talked to him for 2 seconds, he was the nicest guy, and that he didn't like hurting people. And that was, I mean, he was the nicest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, church going. I don't think he's ever said a cuss word in his life. Like, he is, I mean, just not what you would. Don't judge a book by its cover, because that's the truest thing.
And so I'm curious, right? Because what you're getting at is this, like, really this mental toughness, right? And so how do you're working with youth, how do you instill that in them? Is there any, like, practices or rituals that you do to help them build that confidence as they go into their fights?
A drill I always like to do is make every kid lay down and do flutter kicks for 1 minute. Every time one kid would put his foot down, and then I'd start over. And then another kid would, and I'd start over. After they did 3 or 4 times, they were so tired of doing it, they kept their feet up for a minute. When the first time they couldn't do it, and the second time they couldn't do it, but then the third or fourth, whenever they're like, oh, we're going to keep going until we do this, then, I mean, that's how I kind of push through things. Because, I mean, like, I would tell them, like, go to their happy place. Find out whatever motivate them. Like, whoever pissed them off that week, winner on the bag, imagine them. And just by showing them that they can do more than they think they can. And boxing is a tough sport. I mean, it really is. The fight can be easy, but, I mean, if you change your butt off, then, I mean, it takes a toll out on your body and mentally. And that's why, like, I don't think I could fight as much as, like, some of, like, the kids at, like, 150 and 145, you know, getting 12 fights a year or 20 fights a year. That's insane to me, just for the mental aspect. I think the most fights I ever did was like 3 in a year or something. Or when I fought Scarface, I haven't sparred in boxing in probably 8 years. Like, it was a while. My timing was off. I mean, and to be completely honest with you, I thought we were doing 2-minute rounds. So mentally, I started off slow because I thought we were doing 2-minute rounds. I haven't ate in 2 days because I really wanted to make weight. I'm old school. If you say you're going to be at a weight, be there. I did tell him I was probably going to be a little bit heavy because, the saunas and steam rooms were closed because of COVID.
Yeah.
So it was just nothing but diet. I mean, I did a couple Epsom salt baths to lose a few pounds the night before. I couldn't cut the weight like I wanted to, like I'm used to.
Yeah, I mean, considering all those factors, you still look good, right? I saw that you were able to move. I mean, I think towards the latter of the fight, it seemed like you started to pick up the pace. And so you look really good. And I certainly want to focus on the end of the fight, right? Because after the fight was over, you and Scarface got on the video and you start talking about how your girlfriend's fight with cancer, and you talked about how much stronger she is.
Dude, she was a rock solid. I was losing my shit mentally. I mean, physically, I put on, God, I don't know how much weight. Like when she met me, I had a 6-pack. I mean, I thought whenever we first met, I was fighting at 185. Whenever I was talking shit to Scarface, I was 284. So that is a huge, huge difference. And I've always been like, oh, I got to fight. Oh, I'm fighting on the 16th. I'm fighting, you know. I call them matches now. I saw what a true fight was. She had a fight on her hands, and mentally, emotionally, physically. I mean, hell, they doing a double mastectomy. They're taking parts of your body, which I mean, she handled it way. I mean, she was amazing.
Yeah, so I want to ask, like, how does seeing her, like, I love the idea of, like, switching idea to fight 2 matches. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes complete sense. But you don't get that perspective unless you see someone going through it, right? And so it's clear that you've learned by watching her. And so I just wanted to ask, like, are there any lessons that you can share with us about mental toughness watching your girlfriend go through this battle?
It made me a stronger person, and I felt like I matured tenfold, because for being 40, I am pretty immature. Like I like to have fun. I feel like a kid. I play video games. I mean, I just like to have fun, and I don't care what the norm is. I've never really tried to be cool or anything like that. It's not why I was doing fighting or anything like that. I actually find that you find peace in fighting, because I think every kid should go through martial arts training for 2 reasons. Because to stop them from being a bully and prevent them from being a bully. I've never seen anybody that was really good at competitive fighting bullying somebody, because they test themselves in the gym. They know what they can do. The ones where I'm just using this as an example, football players that are, you know, lifting weights and, you know, and they don't know what, 90% of them don't know what they can do. So they're picking on the little guy. And I mean, when I was 15, 16, I was guilty of that. But the more I competed in fighting, I think the better of a person it made me. And because when you're in the fight, you don't care about taxes, bills. You're just focused on that one thing, and that's your opponent. So there's like a peace and serenity in fighting, I guess you'd say. If somebody checked my heart ratio while I'm fighting, dude, I'm calmer than I am right now. I'm more nervous about talking to y'all than fighting. No lie. I'm not exaggerating one bit. And honestly, I don't like hurting people. That's not why I got in fighting or anything like that. I just love it, just testing yourself. And there's no better test than getting in a cage or a ring with somebody and testing yourself against another human being, going through the same mental warfare as you are, and the adrenaline dump of the crowd and everything else.
So I want to kind of stay on this topic a little bit about sort of the lessons that you've learned from having been in the corner of your girlfriend who was battling breast cancer, right? And what I'm curious to kind of hear from you is, like, you know, there's probably going to be, our hope is that a lot more fighters are going to tune in and watch this episode. And if you had an opportunity to be in the corner of these fighters, right, given what you learned going through, you know, the breast cancer battle with your girlfriend, and you know, all the coaching that you've gotten throughout the years from all the various, you know, coaches and trainers in your professional or in your boxing career, right, and just fighting in general, what advice would you give fighters if you were in their corner, just about fighting or life in general?
Don't quit on yourself. Don't cut yourself short. A lot of people go through hard times, and I mean, I'm guilty of it too. Tomorrow might not be better than today, but in 6 months later, it will be gradually better. If you're talking about competitive fighting, don't overthink it. it's really honestly not that important. Like if you win, lose, or draw, just as long as whenever you lay your head on the pillow, you know you did your best. I've actually, my last Golden Gloves, won. It was probably my worst fight I've ever had in my life. To tell you the truth, my dad, 3 minutes or 4 minutes before the fight, he's like, "Who are you fighting?" And I said, "Oh, that big black guy in the camo." And I'll never forget it to this day. He looks over, he goes, "Glad it's you and not me." Slaps me on my back, walks away. I'm gloved up waiting to get in the ring. I got in there so scared. Mentally, it threw me for a loophole, to be completely honest with you. And I won the fight, but it was probably my worst performance I've ever had in my life. And even though I won, I am more disappointed with that fight than some that I've lost. It's not about the win, lose, or draw. It's about how you know. I mean, it's not what people think, but you know if you did your best, competed at the capability that you know you're capable of. If that it's kind of hard to describe, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it reminds me of like the Tyson effect, right? There's a number of documentaries that Mike Tyson said that he would win the fight before the fight happens. And oftentimes it's through like exuding, like making sure that his opponents were afraid of him. And so when they would get into the stare-offs, he made sure that he was looking into their soul. And he said once he saw their eyes go somewhere else, he knew he had won. Right? And because of it, right, we go into these fights with this fear already thinking that we're going to lose. And as a result, it impacts our performance. It impacts the way that we deal with these challenges because we don't go in with our full self or full confidence in our abilities. We go in thinking we're going to lose already. And so we just got to hang on and survive.
Yeah, no doubt. Tyson was so intimidating, but I think personally that he used a lot of intimidation because he was scared. I think whenever he lost Customato, he lost a piece of himself. If you ever seen whenever they weren't intimidated, he wasn't winning the middle game. I think he got frustrated and bit Evander Holyfield's ear and did a lot of things that were uncharacteristic. Like if you watch his first fights, how like he was just a bull and just wasn't scared of anybody. That's because I think he knew they were mentally beat before then. But if the opponent showed resolve and did not give in to the mental games and was not scared, then I think that messed with his game.
No, certainly. It reminded me of, I can't remember what interview I was watching, but there was a fighter who said that in his fights, he said he had to trust that when he hit his fighter or hit his opponent, that it was hurting him. Because oftentimes they have like a game face and you can't tell if you're hurting them. But he said he had to trust that when he was landing, he was hurting them. And so he would find out in the third or fourth round that he was indeed hurting them because now it was starting to show. But the first 2 rounds, it was really difficult. And you had to kind of trust that what you were doing was working.
Yeah, you got to have 100% confidence in yourself. Getting in the ring, if you're doubting yourself when you step in there, you're not going to fight at your capability. Even if a shot hurts, we want to show that it's not. If you see a fighter get hit and he's like, that hurt him. Like he wants to show his toughness. You know what I'm saying? I think Muhammad Ali actually was the really first fighter, like I guess in the mainstream, that would use psychological warfare. I mean, he would show up to their camps in a bus with a bullhorn. One of my favorite moments, not because he's from Arkansas, but when Sonny Liston was playing craps in Vegas, he knew Ali was going to come mess with him. So he had a gun with caps in it. Have y'all ever seen that?
No.
Okay, well, Ali comes up and starts doing his chanting and yelling at him. Well, Sonny Liston pulls out the pistol, points it at Ali. Ali takes off running, scared to death. And he fires the shot, and he takes the jacket and then shoots it to show everybody its caps. Puts it back in his holster and continues playing craps.
Wow.
If you get a chance, watch it. It's actually pretty funny. But just for that split second, I've never seen Ali so scared. Because, Sonny Liston, everybody knew he had mob ties. So whenever he pulled that gun out, I think he really thought it was real. And
that certainly gets somebody backpedaling and thinking differently about what they might have thought about you. Like, man, this dude's a real gangster.
Yeah, no, Sonny Liston was, I mean, he got his start from fighting in prison. I mean, and I think he was a mob, like, debt collector, and that's actually how he got started after he got out of prison.
Listen, Cupcake, I feel like we can keep going with you, and this can easily be an hour episode. What's next for you? What are you sort of working on right now? Can we expect to see you again in the Street Beef circuit?
Man, I fly by the seat of my pants. Honestly, I do not know. I went to that fight with some injuries, and I have not trained 1 minute since then. So I've actually put on probably about 15, 20 pounds. I will compete again. I don't know for what organization. My next fight will probably be local. I'm thinking maybe MMA, maybe again. I really love jiu-jitsu. I think MMA is just a pure sport, which, I mean, boxing is too. But I do believe that in MMA, there's ways out of the fight easier than in boxing. In boxing, you got to take that ass whooping. I mean, you're not gonna say, "Oh, I quit," which, I mean, I've seen that happen. But in MMA, you can fall down, you can give your back. You know, there's easier ways out. So, I mean, they both have their hindsight, I guess you'd say.
Well, any last words to your fans, those who are following you?
Keep following me on MySpace. I hope Cupcake's MySpace is blowing up. A lot of people thought I was real when I said that. I know I'm from Arkansas, and we are a little far back in the times, but I don't think anybody's on MySpace. I just said that because every Street Beef
Might be the only one, Cupcake. You might be the only one.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't have MySpace. Well, I did. I think Nick Diaz is on the background. But if somebody adds me, they can be automatically on my top 10. I just said that because everybody's like, follow me on Twitter, follow me on Instagram, my YouTube channel. And so I was kind of embellishing the troll and trolling a little bit, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Are you a Nick Diaz fan?
I'm originally from Stockton, California. I was born and raised in Stockton.
I lived in Martinez.
Oh, is that right? Hey.
Yeah, I was a huge fan.
Yeah. I mean,
whenever Robbie Lawler, I was hooked after that.
That was it for me. I was a big Robbie Lawler fan till he fought Nick Diaz. Because I was like rooting for Robbie, and then Nick knocks him out. I was shocked. I'm like, wait, what? And then the whole time he's saying like, Stockton, mother, Stockton. And then at the end, I'm like, wait, what the fuck is happening right here? I'm like, Stockton. And instantly I went from being I still love Robbie Lawler, but from him being my top fighter to like instantly just being a Nick Diaz like super fan. And I've got
both of us are stands. Yeah, we love the Diaz brothers.
If you love fighting, then my God, you're gonna love them. Yeah. I mean, they tell it how it is.
Yeah,
for sure.
Thank you so much for this, Cupcake. Really appreciate you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you for tuning in. Hopefully you were able to find some gems in the interview that you can apply to your life. If you like what you saw, like what you heard, please subscribe to our channel, show some love on our Patreon page. Until then, dig deep and double down on your own commitments to yourself.